In a dramatic day of testimony that could redefine the Brown family's financial destiny, Cody Brown, the patriarch at the center of a high-stakes multi-million-dollar suit, took the stand to defend his financial decisions. But the patriarchal authority defense that he had long relied upon began to unravel as opposing counsel skillfully used his own words from years on reality television against him. The tension in the courtroom was palpable as Brown, clearly agitated, endured a relentless barrage of questions that eroded his image of control, citing a pattern of financial favoritism. His ex-wives claimed that favoritism worked against them while making his legal wife, Robyn Brown, richer. This is the tale of a patriarch brought down by his own words, in which the blurring of reality television has spilled into a courtroom fight with mind-blowing repercussions. If you are craving every twist, discovery, and behind-the-scenes analysis of this record-breaking case, be sure you are subscribed to Reality Recap. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss 1 second of the fallout from this explosive testimony, and trust me, it is only the tip of the iceberg. To realize how much is riding on what is going on in that bare-bones, wood-walled courtroom, we have to roll back. Not a few months or days, but years. We have to go back to the Brown family's complicated financial history, a narrative that is as much a player in this saga as any person. At the center of that narrative is a notion now subject to the most stringent legal scrutiny, what the Browns referred to as the family pot, or the common purse. In their early days in Lehi, Utah, this was the foundation of their communal existence. Housed together, the four wives, Meri, Janelle, Christine, and new addition Robyn, brought their money together. Janelle, who had a career and was financially stable, earned a large income. Christine took care of the house, an unpaid but vital job which enabled others to work outside. Meri also contributed, and Kody, ever the salesman, contributed his own income. The principle was simple. Everyone gave according to their ability, and everyone received according to their need. It was the financial embodiment of their plural marriage values, a system built on shared sacrifice to support a common dream. When the family escaped from Utah to escape prospective prosecution, that system was tested for the first time. Relocating to Las Vegas was not only a change of scenery, it was a structural shakeup. The one home yielded to 4 individual homes in a cul-de-sac, dividing the family's assets for the first time. It was a physical manifestation of cracks starting to develop, though they weren't yet visible. To be eligible for 4 mortgages, their finances needed to be packaged in such a form that the conventional banks would accept. This led to a labyrinth of legal entities and LLCs, a trail of paper that merged assets in ways that legal analysts now describe as both complex and perilously opaque. Janelle, who had an accounting background, was instrumental in untangling it, but ultimate control, the final decision and signature, always remained with Kody. He was president of their family firm, the de facto CEO of their faith-based business. In appearance, the Vegas years were a time of stability. Every wife had her own house and raised their joint kids. But behind the scenes, finances were changing. The My Sister Wife's Closet, their high-flying but ultimately failed jewelry and accessory company, became a huge drain on the common fund family sources, who declined to be named, report hundreds of thousands of dollars were invested in the project, an undertaking driven by Robyn's enthusiasm and Kody's commitment to support her. Although all 4 wives were technically partners, insiders indicate the financial burden of failure was not split evenly. All earnings from My Sister Wife's Closet, if any, were to be put back into the family coffers. Rather, the losses sucked it dry, depriving it of resources that were intended to buy the futures of 18 children and 4 wives. More than any other enterprise, this company revealed the fundamental flaw in their system. With Kody as the single decision-maker, a poor investment wasn't just his problem. It was a catastrophic blow to the whole collective. In court, that shift from secure Las Vegas to unsecure Flagstaff, Arizona is being couched as the moment when fiscal management turned into alleged misappropriation. Kody has maintained since the beginning that the move was a calling from God, a reclamation of family cohesion that they could accomplish by constructing their forever home on the vast acreage that they named Coyote Pass. On direct questioning, conducted by his lawyer, Kody presented himself as a visionary who was making a tough but necessary decision regarding the future of the family. He characterized the Vegas cul-de-sac as poisonous to their togetherness, an arrangement that fostered independence at the expense of oneness. In his view, the financial risk, selling 4 houses, buying an enormous tract of land, and committing to several rentals, was the collective sacrifice, the cost of pursuing a shared dream. Any difficulties which ensued, he contended, were due to erratic shifts in the marketplace and teething pains of a bold scheme. Christine and Janelle Brown, however, have presented a whole other story. Their attorneys contend that the Flagstaff relocation was motivated not by religion, but by bad judgment and nepotism. They say it was a catastrophic financial choice made over the objections of some family members, one that mainly benefited Kody and his lawfully wedded wife, Robyn. At the heart of their argument is the charge of breach of fiduciary duty. Although the Browns never executed a written business contract, plaintiffs contend that years of commingling money formed an implied partnership. There, Kody, as the successful stewards of the family pot, was duty, bound to be open, be prudent, and serve the interests of all members, himself or one wife alone. Not just. The suit alleges he breached that obligation time and time again. The Kody Pass purchase is one such hot button. The property was purchased with money pooled together from the equity in the Las Vegas houses all of the wives had put in, either by income or homemaking. But the subdivision of the plots was a source of contention. The lawsuit reports an unfair split, with Robyn being awarded a much larger and more valuable portion, a controversy that also took place on their reality show. To the Brown plaintiffs, it was the first incontrovertible indication that favoritism was taking the place of the greater good. The most incendiary charge, however, involves the acquisition of Robyn Brown's almost $1 million Flagstaff house. While Janelle was camping in an RV on the raw land, and Christine settled for a rental, Kody and Robyn bought a 5-bedroom, 4-bath estate with a 4-car garage. Kody has consistently justified the acquisition as a necessity, stating rental properties spacious enough for Robyn's household, her 5 kids included, weren't available. He contended the house was an economical choice, a good financial investment that one day could be sold to pay for building Kody Pass. He presented it not as extravagance, but logistics. The plaintiff's lawyers have labored to take apart that argument bit by bit, depicting instead as a created ruse for directing family riches straight to Kody and Robyn's advantage. Christine and Janelle's lawyers contend that while their funds and other assets were tied up in the bare earth of Kody Pass, most of the family's liquid wealth was steered toward the purchase of a permanent, high-value asset for Kody and Robyn exclusively. It was textbook self-dealing and a raw breach of the trust that held the family together, they believe. The suit isn't merely seeking damages. It is seeking complete unwinding of the family's holdings, a forensic accounting to trace all money ever put into the family pot, and a judgment that would force the sale of Robyn's home and the Kody Pass property so the money could be divided equally among the original partners. Before the cross-examination that unsettled him, Cody Brown answered questions for almost a full day from his own lawyer. He was confident, even feisty, in his demeanor. Seated upright, using hand movements to punctuate his testimony, he described what he believed were the fundamental tenets of his governance. "I am the patriarch," he said to the court. "It is my God-ordained responsibility and obligation to provide for my family, and that means making the tough financial decisions. I am captain of this vessel, and sometimes the crew does not know the storm we are steering through. My choices were always made with the intent of protecting and providing for the whole family." He positioned the suit as a heartrending misunderstanding, a reflection of a society that no longer respects patriarchal authority. Christine and Janelle, he claimed, weren't cheated business partners but bitter former wives, rewriting history to justify their exit. The family pot, in his version, wasn't a bank account but a holy trust, one to which only he was spiritually entitled. Even with the acquisition of Robyn's house, he was portrayed not as extravagance, but a costly burden he bore for the benefit of stability for his youngest children. He portrayed himself as a benevolent patriarch, a visionary now martyred by the very family he had sought to shield. For an instant, his own certainty had been robust enough to persuade the room, to make him not the creator of the family's disaster, but its confused savior. That story was poised to collide with a decade's worth of his own words, recorded, broadcast, and now entered into testimony as Exhibit D, the reality show recordings. The piece was over. The storm was approaching. Cross-examination didn't begin with fireworks, but with measured precision. The lead attorney for the plaintiffs, Amelia Vance, was the antithesis of Kody's forceful personality. Serene, calculated, and surgical, her queries sliced directly to the core of his defense. She started with the foundation. "Mr. Brown," she said evenly, "in a typical business partnership, there are operating agreements, bylaws, and documents that define the rights and obligations of each partner. Did the Brown family partnership, which managed millions over 2 decades, ever have such an agreement in writing?" Kody fidgeted in his seat. "We did have a mission statement. We did have a family constitution that we were developing. We are a family, not a corporation." Vance waited for the words to hang in the air before answering. "A family," she echoed. "That, by your own admission, had a common bank account, jointly filed business taxes on businesses such as my sister-wife's closet, and obtained loans on 5 multi-million-dollar homes. Without a written contract, then who made the rules of this union?" Kody stiffened. "I did, as the patriarch. That was my job." Vance returned to her table, retrieved a binder, and turned to a different topic. "Let's talk about one of those companies, Mr. Brown, my sister-wife's closet. Whose brainstorm was that business?" Kody looked over at Robyn in the gallery. "It was something the wives were enthusiastic about, mostly Robyn. She had the idea." Vance turned a page. "And the original investment, the startup capital for this company? Where was that from?" "From the family," Kody replied. "From the family fund." Vance's tone remained level as she went on. "And when the company, after years of investment, went bankrupt and was shut down, who took that money loss, Mr. Brown?" Kody's jaw stiffened. "We all did, the family." Her gaze narrowed ever so slightly. "So collective funds were spent on starting a venture initiated by one wife, and the collective absorbed the loss. Would that be correct?" "It was a family enterprise," Kody fired back. "We were all in it together, but the damage was done. The precedent had been set. The family pot could be dipped to fund one member's particular project, but the risks shared by all." Then Vance addressed the so-called golden years in Las Vegas, their separate but together scenario. On her courtroom screen, she showed maps of the 4 almost identical houses. "Mr. Brown, the 4 houses were approximately equal in size and value, weren't they?" "Approximately, yes," he admitted. "And each of your wives back then, Meri, Janelle, Christine, and Robyn, brought contributions towards the mortgages and maintenance from the family pot, right?" "Yes." Vance then presented financial documents tracking the sale of each of the houses before the Flagstaff relocation. She took the court through them step by step. Meri's house was sold. Proceeds went into a family account. Janelle's house was sold. Proceeds went into the same account, now Christine's home. Mr. Brown, Christine lived in that house for nearly a decade. She raised 6 children there. According to these records, she provided a significant portion of the down payment from her own earnings. Is that correct?" Kody hesitated. "All our money was family money. Answer yes or no, Mr. Brown. Did a substantial part of the down payment on that property have its origin in money Christine personally earned?" There was a long silence, and a stern glance from the judge, before Kody grunted, "Yes." Vance allowed the answer to hang and then continued. "When Christine's house was sold, the equity, a whopping 6-figure sum, was put into the family account, correct?" "Yes," Kody shouted this time. "It was family funds for the family's new life in Flagstaff. For the family," Vance echoed softly. "And the plan had been to construct homes on Coyote Pass, so you all could live together again. That was the dream that you promised your wives. And the world, was it not?" "It was, and it remains the dream," Kody responded, voice taking on passion. "That is what all of this has been about." With the foundations in place, Vance started building her evidence piece by piece. "Mr. Brown, when you initially moved to Flagstaff, what was Janelle Brown's situation?" "She was renting," Kody responded. "And then the landlord sold the house and she lost her place. She chose to purchase an RV and live on the property to get us going. She chose to, or she was forced to, because no other suitable alternatives were offered to her within the family's means." Kody flinched. "It was the best idea at the time. A solution that involved living in a trailer on raw land with no sewer hookups or running water for a period of time." "Is that right?" We were camping out. We were creating a dream, Kody retorted, and Christine Brown. Vance continued, unfazed. What was her arrangement? She was in a rental too, and were any attempts made, on family pot money, to buy a house for either Janelle or Christine in Flagstaff? Kody's voice rose. The plan was to build on Coyote Pass. Every liquid asset was for developing that property. The judge cut in sharply, warning him to lower his tone. The room went quiet as Vance retrieved a tablet from the clerk. Your Honor, I'd like to play a video clip already entered into evidence. It comes from the family's television show. Kody's eyes went wide. His attorney stepped forward to object, but the judge motioned him down quickly. The screen came to life, and it replayed a key, haunting moment, Kody and Christine's last tense confrontation as she was leaving him and heading back to Utah. On the screen, Cody Brown appeared in a confessional, his face tight with pain and anger. His voice broke as he spoke the words that had echoed for months among fans and would now reverberate inside a courtroom. It's a knife in the kidneys. After everything I've done, all the sacrifices I've made, years and years of work, for her to just take it all and leave. The clip stopped. The quiet that followed was unbroken. Amelia Vance let the silence drag on a full 10 seconds before she spoke. She moved toward Kody, her eyes fixed on him. Mr. Brown, she said, her voice friendly but biting. You've informed this court. Your choices were always made for the benefit of the family. You've labeled yourself a patriarch sacrificing for a shared vision on Coyote Pass. But then, on national television, you acted like Christine was leaving not just emotional anguish, but something being stolen from you. You referred to it as a knife in the kidneys. She walked nearer to the witness stand. So I want to ask you, Mr. Brown, when you touched that knife, were you lamenting the loss of a spiritual wife of 26 years? Or lamenting the monetary loss of a significant family asset exiting the door? Particularly, the equity from Christine's Las Vegas house, which you afterwards used to make the down payment and financing on Robyn Brown's $900,000 home. The words came with the impact of a physical blow. The color ran from Kody's face. He backed away, his mouth snapping open and shut as he exchanged wild glances with Vance and his lawyer, who sat helpless by his side. The patriarch, the self-appointed captain, stood suddenly lost at sea. He stuttered. That is not. It was about the family, the betrayal. Vance did not flinch. It is an easy question, Mr. Brown. Isn't it a fact that the funds from Christine's residence were not being held in escrow for the Coyote Pass project, as you asserted? Isn't it a fact that those funds were, in fact, used almost immediately to qualify for Robyn's mortgage? A property you now live in co-own, and which is titled in your and Robyn's name only. She raised a paper, pointing to a wire transfer. Is this not the transfer, Mr. Brown? From the general family account holding Christine's proceeds, wired directly to the title company for your new home? All eyes were on him. Bravado was lost. Instead was a raw, cornered anger. He stared at the sheet of paper, then at Vance. He knew he was caught. Denial would be perjury. His whole case, that everything was pooled and invested for the family, depended on this moment. But the documents, combined with his own loose language on television, said otherwise. They indicated Christine's assets were invested to collateralize Robyn's asset, not for the family, for one wife. The silence dragged out until finally Kody spoke, his voice low, bitter. Yes, we had to use that money for the down payment. It was the only way we could get a roof over our heads. It was a concession, a disastrous breach of the dam of his defense. The courtroom breathed a collective sigh, the revelation drolling in the air. Kody had just confirmed Christine's equity was critical to purchasing Robyn's home, a shift that would reconstruct the whole case. His attorney slumped in his chair, the posture of defeat. Amelia Vance did not hint at triumph, however. Her expression was serene, her concentration unbroken. She did not see a win, but a doorway. The chink in Kody's patriarchal armor was open, and she was ready to drive it wide open. Vance's tone had a rough edge as she repeated his words. A roof over your heads, Mr. Brown. That is what you just said. Her voice was smooth, but the incredulity was palpable. Tell me, did Janelle Brown, your wife of close to 3 decades, mother of 6 of your children, not also deserve a roof? Why, then, was the family's liquid assets, i.e., the money withdrawn from Christine's holdings, invested in a mansion for one wife when another was forced to live in what most would define as subpar quarters. A mobile home on raw land, Kody attempted to steady himself, leaning on outdated defenses. Robyn has little ones. Solomon and Ariella were still small. They needed stability. The rental market in Flagstaff is impossible for us. It wasn't a choice. It was necessary. Janelle is strong, resilient. She knew the mission. She wanted to be on the land. Vance didn't flinch. She wanted to be on the land in a house. Mr. Brown, not in a trailer through a Flagstaff winter. Let's return to this so-called mission. You've said again and again that the ultimate goal was to build at Coyote Pass. If that truly was the financial priority, wouldn't a responsible manager of family funds, a real fiduciary, have preserved capital for construction? Wouldn't the smart thing to do be modest rentals for everybody, instead of running resources into one expensive mortgage that primarily helps two people? She left the question pending, allowing time for the jury to consider the reasoning. Or maybe the mission changed, Mr. Brown. Was it still concerning a shared dream, or had it changed to providing security for your legal wife and her children, profiting from the wealth of the very wives who were already questioning their position in your household? The accusation was blunt and merciless. Kody's face twisted in anger. You're twisting everything. Robyn didn't want that house. She was crying, terrified of being the wife in the big house on the hill. She did it for us. For the family. For me, Vance's calm was a knife. She did cry, Mr. Brown, but she did sign. She did move in, and she has remained there since. Meanwhile, Christine is lost. Janelle has resided in a series of temporary housing. The family you purport to defend has all but disappeared, and still the house, the property remains. Explain that inconsistency to this court. How? Kody stuttered, his responses coming apart. It is all part of the family property. When we develop on the pass, the equity from that house goes back into the pot. It has always been part of the plan. That was the opportunity Vance had been waiting for. She moved forward with another paper. Then, let's go over this plan, Mr. Brown. This is the deed to the East Golden Aspen Road parcel. Would you read the names of the grantees? Kody's gaze focused on the page. His jaw clenched, but words froze. Vance's voice cut through the tension. Read it for the court. He finally muttered, almost inaudible, Cody Brown and Robyn Brown, husband and wife. Husband and wife, Vance repeated, allowing the words to hang in the room. Not the Brown family business. Not a trust to shield all wives and children, just you and your lawful wife. So let's have it, Mr. Brown. If tomorrow you were to die, who would take this property, bought, as we've demonstrated, with money from the common account, including Christine's life savings? The courtroom hung there. Kody remained silent. Vance supplied the response herself. Robyn Brown and her children. Not Janelle, not Christine, not Meri. None of their children. The equity would not go into any pot. It would go, free and clear, to your legal wife and her heirs. Isn't that the reality of the structure you created? The silence was choking. The years of religious rhetoric and high ideals stripped bare, leaving only the stark legal reality. Kody hadn't merely favored Robyn. He had successfully fenced her and himself, utilizing the resources of the others to create a fortress they could never own. The so-called family pot never existed. In law, there was none. What actually existed were Kody and Robyn's assets, constructed on the consistent inputs of all others. His explanation of patriarchal might now seem less of a guiding credo and more of an astute money-making strategy. Even his notorious knife in the kidneys comment gained a different interpretation. It was not merely anguish at losing Christine's wealth. It was the fear that his whole plan would fall apart. The plan itself depended on the other wives continuing to contribute to a system they were, in practice, excluded from. Vance then changed tack, going after Kody's actions and public comments, employing his own television persona as ammunition. Mr. Brown, she said, you've testified that you are the leader, the one who is making decisions for everyone's good. Let's see how that leadership worked out. Do you recall when your son Gabriel collapsed, accusing you of not attending his birthday celebration because of your strict COVID rules? Rules that you didn't appear to enforce quite equally to all. Kody's attorney interrupted with an objection. Relevance. The judge overruled. It addresses the witness's decision, making and assertions of fairness. Kody fidgeted in his seat. That was a difficult time. I was attempting to shield the family. But you weren't staying with him, Vance insisted. You were staying with Robyn and her children. So tell us, Mr. Brown, does a father who asserts equal treatment of all sons forgo one son's birthday while living day to day with another wife's children? She didn't give up. And do you remember acknowledging on television that your marriage with your first wife, Meri, had been, in essence, over for years? A marriage in name only, Kody nodded briefly. And yet, Vance went on, she still made financial contributions, didn't she, when she earned enough to buy her bed and breakfast? Robyn badgered her into applying that money to the Flagstaff down payments instead. Is that treating a financial partner fairly, Mr. Brown, to accept her contribution while the marriage itself was little more than an illusion? Every question hit hard, and there was a pattern. Kody invoked the collective when he required money, but not when it came to duties of the same collective. He called for sacrifice in others, but gave affection, time, and most significantly, the family money, all flowing toward Robyn. Cross-examination was a montage of Kody's most notorious on-camera moments turned against him, proclaiming himself done with plural marriage, openly confessing he didn't love Christine anymore, shouting matches with Janelle about money and respect. His gentle concern for Robyn set against callous dismissal of the others. Vance was depicting him not as a religious patriarch, but as a guy who had already dissolved the plural marriage in all ways short of paperwork, continuing to operate a fiscal system based on the participation of those wives. By this time, the case was not so much about money. It was about getting to the heart of the fraud that constructed the Browns' public image. Kody had sold the world and his own relatives a picture of a united, devout, plural home life, but evidence indicated that he had been constructing a monogamous life with Robyn behind the scenes for years, funded by the very women he emotionally and physically deserted. The courtroom erupted in immediate response. In a brief recess, an insider said the scene was one of chaos. Kody was seen in a heated, whispered battle with his attorneys, face flushed, arms flailing. Robyn, normally calm, was reported to be sobbing into her hands. The facade was shattered. What once appeared to be belief and solidarity now stood in shambles, substituted by deceit and financial manipulation. Legal analysts reporting the trial didn't disagree. One such analyst, Dr. Evelyn Reed, a family law and contract disputes expert, said, Mr. Brown's testimony is near in a textbook case of self-sabotage. By purposely declaring the monetary connection between Christine's house sale and Robyn's home purchase in open court, he effectively gave credence to the plaintiff's main argument. He destroyed his own credibility. His call to patriarchal dominance is of no force in contract law. There is no patriarch clause. What he actually forged was a financial partnership, and the evidence is strong to the point that he breached his fiduciary obligation to the other partners in that venture. His own words have become the prosecution's best weapon. This set up the door to the speculations now making the rounds among longtime Brown family observers. Was this a slow descent into favoritism, or a deliberate long-term plan? One perspective argues the move to Flagstaff was, from the start, a purge. Kody, perhaps with Robyn's influence, saw the Vegas cul-de-sac as a failed experiment that left him stretched thin and dissatisfied. By this theory, the economically risky transition to Arizona was not an accident, but a deliberate crisis, a crucible intended to force the other wives out. By committing their resources to an undeveloped property and making day-to-day life intolerable for everyone except Robyn, he could get them to sell out. That would leave him and Robyn in charge of what was left, the property and the big house. It is a creepy situation, but one that uncomfortably fits the course of events and the trail of money presented in court. Another theory puts more emphasis on Robyn's position, not as a plotter, but as a catalyst. She came into the family with a lot of debt and a different set of expectations. The other wives had been living with a leaner, more communal existence. Robyn, it is thought, embodied a newer monogamous system that Kody was drawn to more and more her desires. A larger home, more of Kody's attention, economic security, eventually came to dominate the other's needs. The family pot, which had been a survival mechanism for all of them, became a funnel for the fulfillment of Robyn's own needs. My sister-wife's closet was the initial test run, siphoning family money into her own business. The purchase of Flagstaff House was the culmination of that evolution. That was when the subtext was explicit. Robyn replaced the first wife, and the finances of the family warped around that fact. Even as Kody went on to talk of equality, the trial's revelations clarified the stakes. A ruling in favor of Christine and Janelle would compel liquidation of all that remains in the Brown family name. Kody and Robyn's $1 million residence might have to be sold. The Coyote Pass dream would be over for good, the land split by court fiat rather than family acquiescence. It would be an economic disaster for a family already on shaky ground. But behind the money is the greater accounting. For years, Kody ruled the narrative, filtered through the prism of the reality show. Now, for the first time, the other wives are speaking their truth in an environment where Kody's patriarchal assertions are met not with polite acknowledgments, but cross-examination and demands for evidence. They are not asking for much more than monetary compensation. They are asking for justice, a legal acknowledgement of their work, and a repudiation of the system they claim deprived them of everything. And the testimony continues to mount. Robyn and Meri remain scheduled to testify, and their words can either shore up Kody's ailing defense or seal its fate. Will Robyn remain unwilling, caught up in circumstance? Or will her financial documents and sworn testimony indicate a more active hand in how the family money was diverted? And then there is Meri, the first wife, long kept on the periphery emotionally, but still bound financially. Will she remain with the man to whom she is spiritually wedded, or side with the women who felt her struggle? The very root of the Brown family has been shaken by Kody's own testimony. It confirms the old saying, the truth, no matter how deeply it is hidden, always surfaces. The courtroom can be camera-free, but the globe is watching, and insiders say the most shocking revelations are yet to come. The patriarch is down. The only question remaining is what, if anything, will still be standing when the dust settles.